Fox News alert. Just moments ago, San Francisco District Attorney Brooke Jenkins announced more charges filed against Paul Pelosi's alleged attacker, David DePape.
The charges that we are filing today include attempted murder, residential burglary, assault with a deadly weapon, elder abuse, false imprisonment of an elder, as well as threats to a public official and their family.
That's in addition to the federal charges that came down earlier today for kidnapping and assault. DePape could see maximum sentences of up to 50 years in prison just on the federal charges alone. FBI Special Agent Stephanie Miner is the one leading the investigation into exactly what happened on the early morning night of that attack. Today, she released a criminal complaint that's really left us with a lot of questions. According to that complaint, police received a call at 2:23 a.m. Paul Pelosi was allegedly speaking in code, saying there was a male inside his home. Police scanners show that Paul referred to DePape as a friend, and his name was David.
RP stated that there's a male in the home and that he's going to wait for his wife. RP stated that he doesn't know who the male is, but he advised that his name is David and that he is a friend. RP sounded somewhat confused.
Was that Paul speaking in code? Perhaps. 8 minutes later, police showed up to the Pelosi house. Police know Pelosi's house. They know this is a high-profile residence, and they knocked on the door. The complaint says, quote, when the door was open, doesn't say by who, Pelosi and DePape were both holding a hammer with one hand, and DePape had his other hand holding on to Pelosi's forearm. Now, the complaint goes on to say this. Pelosi greeted the officers when they came in, then asked them what was going on. And DePape responded that everything was good. But it all went south when officers asked both Pelosi and DePape to drop the hammer they were fighting over. According to the complaint, that's when DePape swung the hammer into Paul's head. The officers at the scene then restrained him. The complaint says police later found DePape's backpack by the rear entrance of the house. Inside of it, they found tape, rope, another hammer, and a pair of rubber and cloth gloves and a journal. When they asked DePape what he was there to do, DePape says he just wanted to talk to Nancy and, quote, if Nancy were to tell DePape the truth, he would let her go. And if she lied, he was going to break her kneecaps. By breaking her kneecaps, she would then have to be wheeled into Congress, which would show other members of Congress there were consequences to actions. Which goes to show you just how crazy this guy is. He wasn't there to kill her. He was there to kneecap her and wheelchair her in front of Congress. How a homeless guy was going to get the House Speaker from San Francisco to Washington with broken kneecaps, we don't know. As all of this is coming in, we're also learning a lot more about David DePape, who was an illegal alien from Canada. The San Francisco police chief says DePape had a slew of felony convictions, including one of elderly abuse. So he should have been deported. But it's a sanctuary state in California, thanks to Gavin Newsom and many others. So he was allowed to stay in San Francisco and attack the Pelosis. According to his stepdaughter, DePape would physically and sexually abuse her and her siblings when they were very young. So he was also an alleged pedophile. Locals told the New York Post that DePape was living in a yellow bus parked in front of his ex's house, a San Francisco nudist activist who's behind bars for trying to kidnap a 14-year-old boy. And his ex-girlfriend described DePape as a progressive, quote, a fan of former President Obama, who was always more on the left than on the far right. Neighbors spoke to journalist Michael Schellenberger.
They are just, nudist drug abusers, and that's who gravitates toward them.
What do you say their politics are?
I'm not sure. I would imagine that they're more left-leaning. Nothing that they believe in aligns with their actions. So they'll say that they are, pro-Black lives, and then they'll call the police on Black people.
We think he's the father of some of them? Or do we?
Not sure at all, okay. But if he is, their mom told me that there was abusive nature in their father. So if it is him, then he has abused his own children.
Okay, so people are saying DePape was an Obama supporter who was psychotic and paranoid and a heavy drug user. And neighbors say DePape was taking a psychedelic drug called ibogaine that made him imagine invisible fairy friends. And he often ranted on his blogs about not being able to buy a fairy house with doors. This guy should have been deported. He should have been in a mental institution, or at least behind bars for his previous felonies. He shouldn't have been anywhere near the Pelosi's house. But we also have questions about what happened that night. How did this homeless drug addict even get inside the house? No one has been able to give us a straight answer about that. Now, there was glass broken at the rear door. We've seen those photos, but there looks like there's glass on both sides, inside and out. And FBI sources are telling Primetime that's odd. If the glass door was smashed in, why didn't Pelosi's alarm go off? Right? That's what the San Francisco police chief seems to be saying. Maybe he didn't have an alarm or didn't put it on.
How exactly were police called to the house? Was there a 911 call made, or was there an alarm triggered?
No, there was a 911 call made. There was a 911 call made, and that's how we got there. And thank goodness that there was a 911 call made.
So it looks like Paul Pelosi, multimillionaire, in his house alone, unarmed, in San Francisco during a crime wave, didn't have an alarm system or wasn't setting his alarm system. And this isn't the first time that their house has been attacked. Back in 2012, Nancy's home in Napa was broken into and burglarized on Election Day. And just last year, radical leftists spray painted her garage door and left a bloody pig's head on the driveway. Now, the Pelosi's have cameras all around their house. We haven't seen any footage from any of them. Neighbors have cameras. We haven't seen any footage. We haven't seen body cam footage. We haven't seen anything. The only person on the record who's been a witness to what happened before the break-in is a private security officer who was working nearby, not for Nancy, but for a neighbor, we're told, by the FBI. And according to this FBI complaint, he says he saw someone carrying a large black bag and walking near Pelosi's residence. He said he heard what sounded like banging, and then sirens within a minute or two. But when DePape did break in, the complaint says he went upstairs and confronted Paul, and instead of tying him up, he allegedly let Pelosi use the bathroom, where Paul Pelosi ended up calling the cops and speaking in code. DePape doesn't seem like a very crafty criminal, does he? Sure, use the bathroom. And then the two somehow managed to go downstairs and open the door for police within the next 8 minutes. Again, the complaint says the door was opened, but doesn't say by who. And District Attorney Jenkins wouldn't tell us either.
So at this time, it's unclear which of the men opened the door, and we are also still fleshing out how many times he was struck in the head.
Why won't police say who opened the door? Instead, the complaint says Pelosi greeted police officers, and then went back to wrestling over a hammer. We don't know what happened that night because we weren't there. And police haven't released any footage, body cam, surveillance, nothing. And San Francisco officials keep changing their story. Remember, there was confusion about the hammers, if there was a third person who opened the door. But if we've learned anything about the Pelosi's, you just got to keep asking questions.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.